Okay, so I don't know why, but I wanted to make a video. And yeah, I had these two ideas. I had like the idea of El Sueño Español, aka the American Dream, but in Spain, which is basically be work for the state, essentially. So be like a funcionario, it's called. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, a public officer, I guess, or something like this, right? Where you work for the state of Spain, doing stuff. And yeah, they were talking about it in the context of, yeah, like being a train conductor or something. And yeah, I thought of it. Yeah, essentially what I thought of this was kind of like, it does, like, I don't get the dream exactly, right? Like, I get the stability and all this if you like trains a lot, right? So if you're a guy who loves trains and all this, and you can get like a fixed job paid by the state, all of these, like with these conditions and all that, like not a lot of hours, then I get it, right? It's like you can do this, you can follow like what you like and also get like these good conditions and all that. That's fucking awesome, right? But I don't get the dream part of just working, like just finding randomly a job that like pays decently for our standards of living and all this, and is stable and all that, right? I don't really get the dream part of it. Like, I get that people have it as a dream and all that, but I don't know, like I don't really relate to the aspirationality of it all, right? Yeah. And I have a friend like that who's also like that, like who doesn't believe in like the dream or this, who doesn't believe in like the Spanish dream, and I think because he doesn't like being tied to like to the state, especially. I wouldn't like mind the state thing, but I also do mind it, right? I would prefer like more freedom and like more freedom to like live and all that, which I guess you could have, but I don't know. Like, I don't like the part that I don't get. It's like I don't mind it, right? I wouldn't, if I got into that position, like I probably would be content and all that, in a sense. I think I would eventually develop more aspirations and I would want to break out of it, but like I get the contentness and all this, and I get that there are people who do find that contentment and all that, but like I don't see like this big aspirationality to it, right? Like, I could get the aspirationality if you were like really into trains. Like, the thought of like being forever tied to trains would like excite you and all that, right? But why is there like so much aspiration towards something that it's not like that, right? To something that is like, if you are not like that, why do you have like aspirations, like this kind of baseline aspiration, not baseline, like this aspiration towards something abstract that is not like tied to you, right? I don't know. I think the American dream is also similar, right? So the American dream is like having a house and a car and that kind of thing, right? And like going a couple of times of the year in vacation. No, I don't really know what the American dream is, but I think the American dream is like other things. I think the American dream is more of like, I think that's kind of sold as the American dream sometimes, but to me, like, the American dream is kind of like making it from rags to riches. Like, that's the American dream story, right? Like, coming into the country through Ellis Island on New York, getting your papers and building your business like to the biggest chain in the country, right? That's kind of like the American dream, I think. That's more, and I do relate more to that than to like the Spanish dream, I think. So that was like one thing I wanted to talk about. Then another thing is the value of work, like continuing on the value tweets, the value videos. Yesterday I made a video about value as well, and a couple of days ago I mentioned it as well. And yeah, essentially, I was reading this copywriting book, the same book I mentioned on like a couple of years. I don't remember. Yeah, this I don't know. Well, it's the same book actually, but yeah, I think this is one. My train of thought video. I will probably it will pop up somewhere here. But yeah, essentially, the value of work thing was like the guy was kind of saying, I really like having been all these jobs that I've done, right? Because he's a copywriter now, but he's like kind of low class or whatever. So he dropped out of school at like 16 and had to like work. Fuck, there's an ant. There was an ant on my camera. Yeah, so he had to like work all these jobs, installing like plumbing. He was like a bodyguard of escorts, like yeah, escorts, like the prostitutes. And also he was like he carried money around for a guy. So that kind of stuff, right? A lot of varied jobs that are like low class or whatever. And he was like grateful for having like worked and all that, man, and all that thing, instead of going on the default path, right? And yeah, and I was thinking of, first of all, that thing, like, yeah, I guess you could in his way, like in his mind, it's like this kind of progression of like rags to riches, right? Of like he knows what being low is, so when he's up, he remembers. But it's like the comparison between the default path of like just being in a job and grinding like college, like the default path for he like distinguished between the default path of a smart kid, even if middle class or like low class, versus him because he wasn't smart, so he had to drop out, right? So the default path for the smart person in his case was kind of like you go to university, to high school, you finish high school, you get good marks, you like learn like the school ways, and yeah, I guess suck teachers up, or suck it up to teachers, I don't know, whatever. Like this kind, not sexually, you know what I mean. Like you learn how to like be teacher's pet and all that, right? To like play the game as teachers and the system wants you to play it. Then you go to university and you keep playing this game that people want you to play. Then you go into a job that people want you to play, along all of that, right? But, and he's right about that IMO, but also what he did isn't actually different than that, right? It's just without the university, right? Like you don't think, like you're not a great thinker by plumbing shit, right? You're just plumbing shit. And he was like, I'm grateful for having experienced like a lot of conversations with a lot of different people from different backgrounds and all that. And maybe there is more to there's more truth to that versus like going into corporate where everyone is the same, but also not really, right? Because if you're working low class or whatever, like yeah, people are maybe from literal different backgrounds, as in from different countries, maybe because there's more immigration, but also not really. If you're like on a working class job, on a working class neighborhood or whatever, without studies, you still don't really, I don't know. Like it depends more on the class of job. Like if you go into a 9 to 5, but you're in sales, for example, for a big corporate firm, you're still meeting a lot of different people from different backgrounds and all that, right? But you're in sales and you've gone like the traditional 9 to 5 route, right? And you can also be in sales, like retail, working at a shop, like at a Zara shop, for example. Zara. You can work at a clothing store and you get a lot of clients, and you work retail and you could get like a lot of experiences and all this, right? But it's not dependent on whether you're low class or you've dropped out early or you haven't, right? It's more of like, yeah, of those other conditions. in my opinion. I don't know. That's how I see it. And also, regarding that, it's like the thing I actually had written, which is like the value of work when you don't have to, right? Because I was thinking like these kind of people, right? The people who say this, like who say you have to value work, right? These are the kind of people who will make their kids work at shit, even though, like, so they are like propagating this hard work myth when you're just plugging your kid in your company in a low position when the kid has like the incentive to work there because it's going to be their fucking company, right? Like, obviously, this kid is going to do better than some fucking rando because he has skin in the game. Like, it's his fucking company. Like, if it's a private business, like, right, or if it's a public business, probably his family has like shareholds, like it's shareholding, like a majority shareholder of the fucking thing, right? Or like a big shareholder of the thing. It's like, it's not the same thing. You're not working hard like the others, right? No, you're working hard, maybe for entirely different reasons that others are, right? If you're rich, like you're fucking rich. Like, don't fucking sell me some value of work. I learned what the value of work was. No, you didn't. Like, you had skin in the game and you worked for something that was given to you. You worked to acquire something that was already given to you. It was already given to you beforehand, right? Don't pretend it wasn't, right? It's like, for example, I always put myself in my situation, right? I don't do anything, but I have friends who do, but who also are like monetarily in similar conditions than mine, or even better, right? My family doesn't like really own property or anything like that. A really small house in a fucking remote ass village that is, I think, already paid off, but that's it. Like, no real like cash flow things. Like, they don't really own like a lot of flats, for example. Like, that is essentially a house my dad wanted, right? But like, because he didn't really have money, like, and also because of his preference, he did it that way, like on a fucking remote ass village, and he's spending like way more than you should, but still not really money making house money, right? So it's not like what the house I live in costs. Like, it's like fucking a fraction of it, right? And the house that I live in right now could be like one of those investments, right? So it's like I won't own any property. Like, I won't get given property, unlike many other people who I know, right? But those people who will get given property still have this narrative in their head of like, yeah, working hard or whatever, when they could have done exactly the same thing that I've done, right? Which is not do anything. And they will like associate, like they will give merits to themselves, as in, I worked for all this and all that, when no, you didn't. You just like, yeah, well, I mean, like, there is always some nuance to it and all that, right? Like, yeah, obviously you blah blah blah, but like, I'm really conscious of the fact that I'm living off my parents while they have like this kind of layer of the work that they do as separation and excuse of like all the help that they got given by their parents, right? Meanwhile, I live in it. I live the help while they have like this layer of separation. But at the end of the day, like, they will, when their parents die, they will inherit a fucking enormous house or whatever. And yeah. And I, for example, won't. But yeah, but I lived with my parents for a long time, right? So it's like, yeah, you could have lived with your parents for a long time not doing anything and still like be great off because you are going to inherit a fucking house, right? So you just did the work, yeah, to like do something with with your day, essentially, right? It's like, you don't need to fool me into thinking that you are a really hard worker or whatever, because I know that you could essentially not have done that, right? It's like, yeah. And also, I'm not saying this to like hate on the people who work hard or whatever. No, like, you can work hard and all that, but like just say, yeah, I worked hard, but from a nice place. Yeah, but I started in a nice place, right? And then I will be like, oh, okay, yeah, I started in a nice place and I decided to not work hard, right? Those are like, and I will be like, oh, and thanks to your work, you actually achieved all these things. That's fucking awesome. I didn't, because I didn't work hard, right? That's cool. But like, acknowledge that you didn't have all these things because you worked hard, right? It's like, acknowledge the delta, like the delta that you made and the delta that your parents gave you, and don't just use the work hard part as combination of all, as like the explanation for all the things, right? No, do it right. That was something I wanted to say, right? And yeah, I'm not sure if I will probably drop this, but I'm not sure if I will. Yeah, I don't think people like these topics. Maybe I think one friend of mine will see it, but aside from that, I don't think many people will. Yeah, so yeah, those were a couple of topics I wanted to talk about. And yeah, I also want to mention another thing, since I'm oh yeah, this is a funny watch I found on Twitter. It's a fucking watch where they are like, it's like a Kama Sutra watch, but with bunny. And when you press the watch, it goes to, I wanted to show something about Tokyo or something like this. Yeah, I don't know. I saw my tab. I had this tab open of like Santorini, and I don't know. I wanted to like mention that today I found this thing. I found a tweet. Well, I found this tweet, and I was like, Santorini. Yeah, it had the asterisk, so it caught my attention, right? And I was like, wonder what it is, right? And found this, and yeah, it's cool. And yeah, so I have a travel destinations thing, and with like a lot of places and all that. And I wanted to see, like, today I filmed a couple of things in Tokyo, and I wanted to mention them. Wait. Oh no, I didn't add them here. I added them in my maps. Yeah, it was from this thread, so I added like a couple of things in that he mentioned, like this Natsuge Mikado and the other Mikados and like the Koko Kare place. Yeah. So yeah, I added them, and I'll add them here as well. Yeah, I hate this because it's fucking. I prefer the Rome. Rome as in Rome research, but oh well. I don't even know what the fuck this is. Oh yeah, this is from a movie. Drive my car. Well, you can't even see it. I'm covering it with my head. Yeah, fuck it. Let's do this, so you can see it. This is just me writing it, but yeah, fuck it. Then banh mi sandwich. Then I added this place, and this is Takada no Papa. Takada no Baba, and it's like pinball and arcade. Fuck! I hate this fucking app. I hate when these things don't work. Okay, yes. So this is another thing that I wanted to mention, the Tokyo thing. And yeah, I think that's it for today. No sé cuántos, 100 video series. I could link to some video in particular here. What video did I mention before? Yeah, one of the videos about the value of work and all this. I think I link this one here, for example.